Howdy, howdy. Welcome back to Fin Chapter 3, Homework 3, Efficiency Ratios. So these ratios tell us how well a company is managing their assets. So why do we buy assets? To generate cash flow. And we need to minimize our investment in assets, maximize the dollar amount of cash flow, and minimize the amount of time that occurs between the time we spend cash and the time cash comes back in. So that is the definition of efficiency. It's minimizing your investment or your cash outflow, maximizing your cash inflow, and minimizing the time between your cash outflow and your cash inflow. So let's take a look at some efficiency ratios, and we'll start with the accounts receivable turnover ratio. And the formula is sales for the year divided by average accounts receivable. Now, average accounts receivable is beginning of the year accounts receivable plus end of the year accounts receivable divided by 2. That's what average is. Okay? Okay. Average collection period. How long does it take us to collect our accounts receivable? And the answer is 365 days in a year divided by the accounts receivable turnover ratio. Okay? How long does it take us to collect those receivables? And we want to hit a nice balance. We don't want those receivables outstanding for too long, but we don't want to make it too short because we might turn away from some customers who might go to another supplier who gives them easier terms, longer term time to pay. All right, now let's shift over to inventory. Inventory turnover. Okay? So we want to have enough inventory, but not too much. And so the formula is cost of goods sold divided by average inventory. And you know what average inventory is? It's beginning plus ending divided by 2. Okay? And we use cost of goods sold whenever possible. And if companies that don't have products that provide services, they don't have any inventory. Okay. Average days sales. That is how many days would it take if we didn't buy any more inventory? How many days would it take for us to deplete our inventory? Okay, and so we look at that to make sure, it's kind of like this, make sure we have enough inventory, but not too much. Okay, and so that is 365 divided by your inventory turnover ratio. That's the formula. Okay? Now we have fixed asset turnover. Fact. Fixed asset turnover. Okay? Sales. So again, it's the amount of investment we have in an asset, in this case fixed assets, our overhead, property, plant, equipment, and our sales. And what we want to do is generate the highest amount of sales for the lowest amount of investment. So we have sales divided by average total net fixed assets. And that is beginning of the year plus ending divided by 2. Okay? All right. Then we have total asset turnover, which incorporates all these things. Okay? And that is sales divided by average total assets. Okay, now this is a good ratio, but we need more detail. This ratio tells us how we're managing all of our assets, but it does not give us enough information. It doesn't give us any information about how we're managing our fixed assets, how we're managing our inventory, and how we're managing our accounts receivable. Okay? All right, let's work some of the numbers here. Erase this. And let's work some of the numbers. So we have accounts receivable turnover, and we have average collection period and inventory turnover and average days sales and fixed asset turnover and total asset turnover. Okay? All right, so to work these problems, we're going to need our financial statements, and we have them here for ITT. Okay, so accounts receivable turnover, we've got sales divided by average accounts receivable, and so we've got 6764.1 divided by 1174.3 plus 974.6 divided by 2. Okay? And the answer is, for 2017, it is 6.2954. For 16, it is 6.1062. All right, average collection period, 365 divided by AR turn is equal to 365 divided by 6.2954, and that is 57.9788 and 59.7749. Okay, inventory turnover. So that's cost of goods sold divided by average inventory, and cost of goods sold is 4267.8 divided by average inventory 708.4 plus 578.5 divided by 2, and our inventory turnover is 6.6327 and 6.1791. Our average day sales is 365 divided by our inventory turn, 365 divided by 6.6327 is 55.0305 and 59.0704. Fixed asset turnover, sales divided by average fixed assets, total fixed asset, fixed assets. So we go back to sales and we get 6764.1 divided by beginning net PP&E 980.9 Now we can either do PP&E or we can include the intangibles. And it looks like to me like we just included let me do this calculation to see if we included the intangibles in this calculation. So if you have 6764.1 divided by our fixed asset turnover of 7.2181, we come up with 937, which is just the, that's just the PP&E. So this is just PP&E here. So I'll be clear on a test to tell you whether to include intangibles or not. So 980.9 plus 893.3 divided by 2. And our fixed asset turnover is 7.2181 and 6.4879. Okay? And then total asset turnover, sales divided by average total assets. And so we have 64.1 divided by average total assets, 76.7 plus 5937.6 divided by 2, and we get 1.0238 and 0.9935. Now, I'm going to let you do 2015 on your own. All right? So do 2015 on your own. Okay. Now, last question. Interpreting the numbers. What are two implications of having a higher turnover ratio versus a lower turnover ratio? So, the higher the turnover ratio, the more efficient a company is. The more sales or cost of goods sold are being generated relative to the investment in the asset. You want to maximize your sales, minimize your investment. This means a firm that is more efficient can operate with less capital. Be careful not to cut the investment in your assets too low. You don't want to run out of inventory or turn away incremental sales because you're keeping your investment in inventory too low or your account receivable terms too tight. So there's a balance that you want. You want to minimize your investment in an asset, but make sure that you have that asset available to you. And so let's take a quick look. And so our accounts receivable turnover increased, and increase is good. It means they're more efficient, from 6.1 to 6.3, which means the average days to collect went from almost 60 to 58. 2 days, that's good. We turned our inventory over it went from 6.18 to 6.63, that's good. That means we can hold less inventory, which frees up capital to do other things. And then our fixed asset turnover went from 6.48 to 7.21, which means that our sales increased faster than our investment in property, plant, and equipment, and that is a great thing. And then lastly, you can see the result of all of this. Our total asset turnover went from 0.99 to 1.02, and the company is being run more efficiently. Okay, so that's homework 3. We'll take a brief break and come back with homework 4. Peace out. Shalom.